the dawn of time, a land flowed with promise, but held a deadly secret. A choice sealed a destiny where beauty hid the deepest depravity. The earth, still young, breathed under the promise of God, a promise made to Abraham, the father of multitudes. God's blessing rested abundantly upon him, and with him, upon his nephew, Lot. Their flocks multiplied so greatly that the land itself seemed too small. But great material abundance brought the seed of discord. Strife arose between their herdsmen. Abraham, a man of peace and deep faith, wisely understood they must part ways. "I beg you," he spoke to Lot, "let there be no strife between us, for we are brothers. Is not the whole land before you? Separate from me, you choose first." It was an offer of astonishing generosity. Lot lifted his eyes and saw the plain of the Jordan, lush and fertile, like the Garden of Eden. It was a land that shouted easy wealth and comfort. Lot's eyes were fixed on earthly beauty, on the seductive promise of the world. He chose the plain and journeyed eastward, eventually establishing himself in the city of Sodom. He had chosen apparent urban prosperity, but the beauty of the plain hid a deep corruption. The men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful before the Lord. Their prosperity had bred overwhelming pride, defiant arrogance, and rampant perversion. Their constant cry of iniquity rose day and night before the throne of the Creator. Lot had planted his home and family at the very edge of a moral abyss, without counting the terrible invisible cost. The divine investigation. While Lot lived in Sodom, Abraham continued his pilgrimage of faith, growing in intimacy with the Almighty. One day, Abraham received a momentous visit. 3 men stood before him. Instinctively recognizing a divine presence, Abraham ran to meet them, bowing himself to the ground and offering sacred hospitality, a feast of the finest bread, milk, and a tender calf. After the meal, 2 visitors, now revealed as angels, directed their steps toward condemned Sodom. But Abraham remained standing before the third, the one he called Lord, Adonai, the very presence of Jehovah. The Lord revealed the terrible truth. The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is indeed great, and their sin is exceedingly grave. I will go down now and see. Abraham's heart filled with anguish at the thought of his nephew Lot living in the heart of the impending storm. He pleaded with the Lord, interceding boldly, "Would you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous in the city? What if there are only 10? In an act of unfathomable patience, the Lord agreed, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." The divine investigation was about to begin. The night of terror. As the sun sank, the 2 angels arrived at the gates of Sodom. Lot, sitting at the gate, immediately rose and urged them to spend the night in his home, knowing the moral darkness of the city. The angels accepted. But before they could rest, news of the strangers had spread. The men of Sodom, every man in the city from the youngest to the oldest, surrounded Lot's house. They pounded on the door, shouting an abominable demand, "Bring them out to us, that we may know them." Lot, trapped between the sacred duty to protect his guests and paralyzing terror, went outside. In a desperate, corrupted act, he tried to appease the mob by offering his own virgin daughters. The mob scorned him. "Get out of the way. He came here as a mere foreigner, and now he dares to judge us. Now we'll deal worse with you than with them." They pressed hard against the door, determined to break it down. At that critical instant, the heavenly men reached out, grabbed Lot, and pulled him into the safety of the house. Then, they struck all the men outside with sudden and total blindness. The mob, moments before possessed by murderous rage, stumbled in vain, groping for a door they could no longer see. The judgment was sealed. "Flee for your life. Do not look back." The angels turned to Lot. "Do you have anyone else here? Get them out right now, for we are going to destroy this place." Lot rushed out into the night, looking for the men pledged to marry his daughters. He spoke with desperation. "Get up quickly. Get out of this place at once. The Lord is about to destroy the city." But his future sons-in-law, permeated by Sodom's arrogance, thought Lot was joking. They laughed and dismissed his warning. As the first light of dawn began to rise, the angels pressed Lot and his family. "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters. Leave now, or you will be swept away." But Lot lingered. He hesitated, perhaps bound by fear or a tragic attachment to the life he had built. Seeing his fatal hesitation, and purely out of astounding mercy extended for the sake of Abraham, the angels grasped the hands of Lot, his wife, and his daughters, and led them forcefully outside the city walls. One of the angels gave a final, absolute command. "Flee for your life. Do not look back under any circumstances. Do not stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains." As Lot and his family ran toward the small town of Zoar, the sun fully rose. And then, the terrifying fury of divine judgment was unleashed. The Lord himself rained down from the heavens upon Sodom and Gomorrah a supernatural storm of burning sulfur and consuming fire. God obliterated those wicked cities and the entire fertile plain. And then Lot's wife, in a fatal act of direct disobedience, looked back. Was it attachment, curiosity, doubt? Whatever the reason in her heart, she disobeyed, and instantly she was turned into a pillar of salt, a silent, eternal, and terrible monument, an everlasting warning about the fatal consequences of a heart divided between God and the world. The tragic aftermath and the eternal warning. The next morning, Abraham looked toward the land that had once been a lush garden. All he saw was thick black smoke rising from the scorched earth. The painful conclusion was clear. Not even 10 righteous people had been found. Lot, though physically safe, found no peace. Driven by fear, he fled Zoar and settled in a cold, dark cave in the mountains with his 2 daughters. They had escaped the fire, but faced the desolation of isolation, trauma, and deep despair. It was in that darkness that the lingering influence of Sodom's twisted morality culminated in an appalling, sinful decision. Lot's daughters, believing they had no other future, made their father drunk on 2 consecutive nights and lay with him, an act of incest that preserved a lineage but stained their legacy forever. The story of Sodom echoes through the centuries, revealing the absolute holiness of God and his inevitable justice against sin when it becomes persistent and defiant. But even more astonishingly, it reveals the unfathomable depth of his mercy, rescuing Lot not for his own merit, but purely out of love for Abraham. It is a piercing warning about the deadly danger of compromising with the world, of letting its beauty and wealth blind us to its corruption. Lot chose the plain for what it offered. He lost nearly everything. The Lord Jesus himself gave us the final, direct, and piercing reminder. Remember Lot's wife. What are we clinging to that, when the decisive moment comes, will compel us to look back?